Good morning, Panthers. All right, it is February 3rd. It is World Read Aloud Day. And this is an important day because you know how much I love books, and I hope you all are loving books as well. It's a great day to share a read aloud. We're never too old for read alouds. I still love listening to audiobooks, which are read alouds. I also love reading to my kids, to my grandbaby, and to you guys. And so I hope you take today to think about a special read aloud that you might be able to share with your family as well. Today, I've picked a special one for us because it is February Black History Month. And I know we've been doing a lot of work within your classrooms and as a school site around how we are going to learn about other cultures, diverse experiences, perspectives. How are we going to share those experiences together and learn? And so today we are going to read Be a King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Dream and You. And this is written by Carol Boston Weatherford, illustrated by James E. Ransom. And I know we just celebrated Dr. King's birthday in January. And this month, you are also learning about other historical Black Americans that have made such a difference in our nation's history. And so today we're going to hear ways that you can also be making a difference. And here our book jacket says, you can be a king. Stamp out hatred. Put your foot down and walk tall. You can be a king. Beat the drum for justice. March to your own conscience. It's not always easy to stand up for what's right, but everyone has the power to make the world a better place. Inspired by the most important moments of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, award-winning creators Carol Boston Weatherford and James E. Ransom show a new generation of children how to follow in Dr. King's footsteps. You can take charge. You can change the world. I love reading the quotes that are included. The author picks these quotes because they mean something very important to her, and I hope they mean something important to you. This one is a quote from Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, and she says, "Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth." To everyone who marched, protested, and stood up for civil rights for all Americans. And this was a quote from the illustrator. And Martin Luther King Jr. says, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. You can be a king. Marvel at creation. Keep the faith of your ancestors. You can be a king. Know that bigotry hurts. Remember how you felt when treated unfairly. And bigotry is when we discriminate against people for things like the color of their skin, the gender that they are, their personal lifestyle choices. You can be a king. Admit that you've done wrong. Just say, I'm sorry, and mean it. You can be a king. Know that dividing walls should come down. You have glimpsed the other side. You can be a king. Break the chains of ignorance. Learn as much as you can. You can be a king. Stand for peace. Band together against bullies. You can be a king. Sing a song of freedom. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. There's that perseverance that we learned about last month. You can be a king. Stamp out hatred. Put your foot down and walk tall. You can be a king. Answer your critics. Believe in your cause and state it plainly. When people doubt you or challenge you, stand up for what you know is right. You can be a king. Have a dream. Make yours great enough to grow into. You can be a king. Make the world take notice. Do your very best at whatever you do. You can be a king. Beat the drum for justice. March to your own conscience. That conscience is that little voice in your head that tells you what's right and what's wrong. You can be a king. Lift up the less fortunate. Be the king or queen of help. You can be a king. Set your sights on the mountaintop. Climb a little higher every day. And then we have an author's note at the end. And it says, there was nothing in Martin Luther King Jr.'s beginnings to hint that he would become a great humanitarian. Born into a family of Baptist preachers in 1929, Martin Luther King Jr. grew up in Atlanta's segregated Sweet Auburn neighborhood. He first felt the sting of racism at age 6 when a white friend told him they could no longer play together. At age 12, he jumped out of a window after his grandmother died while he was attending a parade without permission. In 1944, during a summer in Connecticut, he witnessed racial integration for the first time. That fall, at age 15, he entered Morehouse College under a wartime early admissions policy. There, he was influenced by college president Benjamin Mays, who called on Black churches to take up social causes. In 1948, King went on to Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, where he learned of Mohandas Gandhi's nonviolent philosophy of civil disobedience. At Crozer, King was elected the first Black student body president. He went on to earn a doctorate degree from Boston University. While in Boston, he met Coretta Scott, his future wife, who was studying to be a concert singer. Soon after becoming pastor of Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, King stepped into history. He was enlisted to lead the bus boycott that began when seamstress and NAACP Secretary Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a city bus. After the successful 381-day boycott, King co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to organize civil rights protests throughout the South. In 1960, he returned to Atlanta to co-pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church with his father and devote himself full-time to the civil rights movement. That same year, he was arrested at a student-led lunch counter sit-in. In 1963, community leaders summoned King to fight segregation in Birmingham, Alabama, a city named Bombingham, for a string of unsolved racially motivated bombings. During those protests, police turned high-pressure hoses and canine dogs on marchers. While jailed for his role in those marches, King wrote his eloquent Letter from Birmingham Jail in response to white clergy's pleas for him to halt the marches and wait patiently for change. Later that year, he delivered his rousing "I Have a Dream" speech before a crowd of 250,000 at the historic March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. In 1964, the year that Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1965, he led the Selma to Montgomery March, actually a series of 3 marches, which marked the political and emotional peak of the modern civil rights movement. The first march on March 7th ended after only 6 blocks when police beat back the nonviolent protesters at Edmund Pettus Bridge with tear gas and billy clubs. That day became known as Bloody Sunday. 2 days later, King led a symbolic march to the bridge where protesters kneeled in prayer. The third march lasted 5 days and reached Montgomery with 25,000 protesters on March 25th. Those marches led to passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. For leading mass protests, King was jailed numerous times and targeted by white racists with knives and bombs. At the same time, some Black preachers considered him a troublemaker, and more militant Black leaders rejected his nonviolent approach. King kept marching, though, and pursuing his humanitarian mission. He spoke out against the United States' role in the war in Vietnam, and he fought discrimination in housing, employment, and schools. That fight took him to Memphis, Tennessee in April 1968 to support striking sanitation workers. While there, he gave his prophetic mountaintop speech in which he alluded to the promised land and the possibility of his own premature death. On the evening of April 4th, 1968, he was assassinated. Riots broke out in more than 120 American cities. His funeral was an international event. In 1983, a national holiday to be observed on the third Monday in January was proclaimed in his honor. And so, Panthers, I ask you, what are you going to do? How will you be a king? What are some ways in which you can stand up for things that you know are not right? What are some ways that you can help your fellow colleagues, your fellow Panthers, your fellow community to help bring change and make the world a better place? So I hope you've enjoyed today's Read Aloud. We'll still have another Read Aloud normal that we do every single week. But today, for World Read Aloud Day, I wanted to share this one with you. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.